And greetings, Maranatha, and all of the friends of Maranatha. It's so good to have you. If you're joining in tonight, so good to see people logging in. I was a little discombobulated just before we started tonight. I just got in the door. I was in Rochester today, and my wife and I uh, shot over to Rochester to pick our granddaughter up. She was spending time over there with some friends, so we went out there and got to spend some time with the Anthony Spite family. I almost thought about staying in Rochester and doing a uh, combined session tonight with Brother Anthony Spite, but that would have meant I would have gotten home, I don't know, sometime after close to midnight. And I have an early day tomorrow, so I thought, well, I'll rush back and I'll get to my own office here and be ready to go by 7. So it was a rush job. I walked in, put everything together, and here we are. But it was a great day and a wonderful time. The Spites, the entire Spite family are wonderful people. They got a great church there. They're back in church also. They're doing a little different than we are. They're having people sign up. They're only allowing 50 people into the church service, and then the rest of them have to listen online. They're not even doing video. They're just doing audio. And they're allowing 50 people to sign up for their church service, and everybody else, if you didn't sign up, you got to listen to it online. But they're starting to get back into their building. We're looking forward to getting into our building. I trust you got a letter from our church secretary, Sister Sarah Warner, who sent out an email letter to everyone. And if you didn't get an email letter and you're interested in receiving email updates and information, we are going to be working towards modernizing the church even more so and doing text updates and things like that. But if you are not on the email list and you want to get updated emails that go out periodically, and one just went out concerning our services starting up this Sunday, just send a it can be a blank email to info, info, short for information, in case it's hard to hear exactly what I'm saying, info@mmchurch.com. We'll get you on our mailing list, and then you'll get all these updates that we send out. And one of the most recent updates that Sister Sarah Warner sent out was concerning church service starting up this coming Sunday, which we're excited about. And we're going to be holding 2 services. That's going to allow us to have service, because right now we are required to keep our attendance or keep our number of people in the building at 25% of capacity or less. Well, our seating, we have the capacity to seat 400 people. Of course, if everybody came at one service, we would be more than 25% capacity. So what we're doing is we're going to 2 services, 8:30 and 10:30, so that roughly half the congregation can come at 8:30 and the other half can come at 10:30. If you hear me wince every once in a while, I hurt my back. I don't even know how. And it's at an odd place. Usually if my back hurts, it's my lower back. And this time it's right in the middle of my back. Weirdest place I've ever had a back problem. I'm going to see the chiropractor tomorrow. So if I move my chair and wince just a little bit, it's because it just hits the wrong way. But we are going to 2 services. If you didn't get the email, let me just give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing. We're trying to split the congregation up so that not everybody comes to the same service. So what we've done is we've asked that the 8:30 service be for people 55 years old and older, and the 10:30 service be for people 55 years old and younger. That's not a hardened and fast rule. If it's inconvenient for you and you can only make one or the other service, you don't fit that age category, that's okay. Come on, it's not gonna break us where the 25% capacity is concerned. But it's just a guideline. It's just a guideline to keep us going. Now, here's what's interesting that I want to talk to us about. And we also put in that letter email that went out some of the things we're going to be doing. We're going to be the building will be sanitized. There's going to be plenty of hand sanitizer for you to use while you're in the building. You will be required to have a mask when you come into the building and when you leave the building. When you get to your seats, the mask is optional. If you want to wear it, fine. If you don't. But you will be. The reason it's optional is because when you're seated in your seats, you will be by necessity maintaining a 6-foot barrier. 6-foot. My brain. I've rushed home from Rochester on the highway trying to get here, and my brain is fried right now. A 6 foot social distancing is the word I'm looking for. 6 foot social distancing. And if you're sitting in your chair, you'll be forced to do that. There will be groups of 6 chairs, groups of 4 chairs throughout the sanctuary. And if a family of 3 is sitting in a group of 6 chairs and you walk in as a single, don't sit with the family of 3. Don't put a 4th person in there that you're not family with. Go to another section. There's plenty of sections. If the sections fill up downstairs, the balcony is open. We are asking right now that the balcony be open only for couples or adults. Couples and adults. No children up in the balcony for now. Couples or adults to the balcony if you want to, feel free. Otherwise, all the chairs will be taped up. There'll be chairs taped off with blue painter's tape. If you see a chair that's got blue painter's tape across it, that means don't sit in it. Don't break the tape. Don't be rebellious. Find another seat. All right. But we are looking forward to a great time. If you do not have a mask, we will have some masks available for those that show up, maybe forgot their mask or didn't know they needed a mask. If a visitor's coming, we will have masks available for you. We will be sanitizing the building in between services also. So that, every time someone comes in, the building is fresh, everything's clean. Now, including the chairs, we are going to be sanitizing the chairs so that when you get into a chair, you can be certain that it's clean, sanitized. Now, I just want to take a few minutes and talk to you about our plans going forward here and what's going to happen from Sunday on. In the past, long before COVID was even a word, before COVID-19 was even a word, we had discussed some of the ministerial staff and people that I confide in where church plans are concerned or where church growth is concerned. We had discussed the idea of and the desire to build. Oh, incidentally, let me just throw this out before I get into this. Last week, I was doing something different with the lighting and I didn't get it set up just quite right before it was time to start. And I thought the image was a little dark on the dark side, maybe even a little grainy because there wasn't a lot of light. And Danny Lawrence was logged in and I was explaining my arm. As you can see, my arm is totally healed. It's all the black and blue is gone. I was explaining my arm, what happened with my arm, and I lifted up to show everybody. And Danny Lawrence put in the comments, it looks terrible. So I don't always see the comments as they're coming in. Towards the end of the session, I try to look over and see if there's anything I should answer. So I glanced over at the end of the session, and I think I had just talked about the lighting, and I glanced over and I saw Danny's comment. I didn't see the time. The timestamp on Danny's comment was early on in the session. I just glanced through to see if there's anything interesting, and there was Danny's comment that said it looks terrible. Because I had been talking about the lighting, I thought he was talking about the quality of the image. And I started explaining to everybody why the quality of the image was so bad. So, of course, Danny put in there later that he was talking about my arm, and I apologized to him and texted him afterwards, texted him directly and told him that I just, had just a blank moment. Like it's custom for me. It's normal for me to have these blank moments of misunderstanding and connecting the wrong dots. So I want to apologize to anybody that thinks Danny Lawrence last week said that the image or the quality of the Maranatha Live looked bad. He wasn't talking about that. He was talking about my arm. Okay, so back to what I was saying, where getting back to church is concerned. I had discussed probably over the year or more. We're always talking about church growth plans and what we're going to do and how we're going to, we want to maximize our effectiveness. We want to reach souls. I've been preaching about that. Everybody's worried about what's going on in our society. We need to worry about what's going on in eternity and where these people in society are going to end up for eternity. That should be our main concern. But that's not new. That's not a new issue just because of what's been going on. We've always felt that way, and we as Christians should feel that way. This world is passing away, the Bible said, and those that are in it are passing away. And eternity is what we can't live for this life. We have to live for that life. So we've always been talking about this. And one of the things we talked about doing is eventually building up the church to where it's getting too crowded to have more people. You only only reach 70 to 80% of capacity before you can have no more new people come in. And why is that? Well, let me just round it off. Let me explain it to you. If you have 100 people, then you have 70 to 80 people are going to be your max. Okay, so we have 400 people, so 200 and whatever 80% is, 320 would be our max. You're not going to get people to come in after that, even though there's 80 seats left, or let's just go with 100. Even though there's still 20 seats there, when a person walks in, they're not going to come back. They're not going to. They might not even stay when there's only 20 seats. Why is that? And here's why. Here's why you can never seat 100% capacity, is because when a person comes in, they don't want to have to sit in between two other people. And when you have, if you have 100 chairs and you have 70 people there, so that means you have 30 chairs scattered around, a chair here, two there, one there, three there, and with a bunch of people sitting around them. A visitor is not going to walk in and fight to get into a chair. They're done. They're going to turn around and go someplace else. And so you only can fill your building to about 70% of capacity, and then nobody will come anymore. So once we were at about 70% capacity, we talked about first, before we branched out into other areas, really developing a very strong foundation here at Maranatha in Schenectady and going to 2 services. We talked about doing that. So now COVID hits, and in order to get back into our building, which we are getting back into this coming Sunday, I'm looking so forward to seeing everybody and seeing your faces. There are several things, though, that I want to talk to us about when we get into the building that are going to be different, and we're going to have to understand it's different before we get there, and accept the differences. And I'll explain those in a minute. But at any rate, we had talked about going to 2 services. So here we are forced to go to 2 services so that we can get in the building. We're forced to do what we talked about doing in the future. We're forced to start it now, long before we ever would. So my plan as the pastor right now is, once we get 2 services started, I don't think we're ever going to go back to 1 service. I don't think that's ever going to happen. We have to go to 2 services. We might as well just keep the 2 services now and just keep building both services at the same time. Then when both services build up to near capacity, we will branch out and start branch works in and around the capital region. So the 2 service concept is here. I'm feeling like we're just going to keep it. We're just going to keep going forward. Now, here's what's going to happen when we come back to church this Sunday. It is not going to be like the last service you were at. There are going to be major changes, and they're major changes for the good, even though they're going to be uncomfortable. They might be uncomfortable for us at first. We might see some things we're not used to. We might experience some things we're not accustomed to. And I want to explain to you what those differences are going to be, okay? There's nothing more exciting than to walk into church and have the place fairly full. It's just hopping and popping. Could you imagine going to a concert? Let's say, I don't know if you're a rock fan or a classic fan or whatever. If you went to see, I went to see the Christmas group there. Someone tell me what the Christmas, the people that do the Christmas, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I went to see them a couple of years ago now at the Pepsi Arena. No, it's not the Pepsi Arena either. Times Union Center. I even forget what they call it anymore. It's been changed so many times. I think it's the Times Union Center. We went down there to see it. Place was packed. The floor was packed. People were in the chairs up on the second level. We had very good seats. My good friend Ken Bobar and his wife took us. They knew somebody that worked at the ticket booth and got us good seats on the floor. Place was packed. Okay, so it was hot. It was exciting. There was excitement in the air, because if that same band was playing and there were 35 people sitting in the around the floor and there was nobody upstairs, and you're sitting there with 35 people looking around, as good as the music is, it loses something because there's just no energy in the crowd. That's how it's going to be when we come to church. That's what it's going to be like this coming Sunday. When you come to church, it's not going to be jam-packed. In fact, we can't have it jam-packed. People that you normally see and probably like to talk to, and you mesh with them, and they're the people you get to and you always seek out. They might not be there. Why? Because they might be at the other service. You don't know, because even though the 8:30 service is for 55 and older, some of the people that are 55 and older are going to come to the 10:30 service. Why? Because the rest of their family does, and their family is that age group. So they're going to come with their family. That's understandable. I know, in fact, that Sister Sarah Warner, who is under 55, she's coming to the 8:30 service. Why? Because she works at the hospital. She's a registered nurse, and she works all night long. And she gets off in the morning. God bless her, because when we had service at 10:30, she'd get off in the morning, having worked all night, and force herself to stay awake to get to the 10:30 service, go through service, and then go home and go to sleep. Well, now she's going to come to the 8:30 service because it's so much closer to her getting out of work. And also, I just want to thank Sarah, because she's the one willing to come and make sure everything is good to go where sanitizing is concerned. And she has volunteered to stay and sanitize the in between services, sanitize before she goes home, sanitize the chairs, and then go into the bathrooms and do all the sanitizing that's going to take place in there. So thank you, Sarah, for your willingness to do that. But she's under 55, so she's going to be at the 8:30 service. So you're going to come to church whether 8:30 or 10:30, and half of the people that you're used to seeing are not going to be there. And the place is going to feel empty, because some of the people that are there, even some of them are going to probably be up in the balcony, which means you're going to look around. You might see 25, 30 people sitting around. And it's like the place is going to feel empty. And you've got to get used to that. You have to get used to that. You have to get used. First thing you're going to have to get used to is understanding that your dedication to God, your worship of God, the worthiness of God to receive exuberant worship does not depend on anybody else being there. It depends on wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. He said, there I am in your midst. So the First Lady is going to be there with me at both services. We only need one more. Well, we only even need one more. 2 or 3, Jesus said, not more than 3. It could just be me and the First Lady. Jesus will be there. So the first thing I want you to understand is to realize that when you come into church and the music is starting, it's going to feel like nobody came to church, and might be everybody's there. And let's face it, shouldn't be true, should not be the case, but there'll still be some that come late. Don't let it be you. Don't let it be you. All right. We complain, oh, we can't go to church. They shut the church down. We haven't been to church in 3.5 months. Listen, I contend that some of you didn't care anyway, because you weren't there at 10:30 when the service started. Some of you got there 11:15 even. So church wasn't really that important to you to begin with. That's what I love about the camera. I don't know who I'm looking in the eye right now. If I was in church saying that, I wouldn't be able to look anybody in the eye, because I wouldn't want them to think I'm talking to them directly. But let's face it, people were coming into church at church started 10:30. People were, you should be there 10:15. You should be there early. You should be ready to go at 10:30. We start a countdown timer at 10:30, 5-minute countdown timer, which means the service starts in 5 minutes. We start that at 10:30. We will be starting that at 8:30. We will be starting that at 10:30. Service is going to start at 8:35 sharp. It's going to start at 10:35 sharp. And in the past, people were 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes late for church. That should not be. Jesus deserves better than that. You do better than that for your jobs. If you showed up at your job 30 minutes late every time, you wouldn't have a job very long. We give more effort and more attention to our jobs and things of this world than we do Jesus, and Jesus deserves our very best. That said, you come to church, you're there on time, you're there 10 minutes early, you're saying hi to a few people are coming through the door. It's odd. It's going to be weird, because at the door, you're going to have a mask on. You're going to be seeing people. Some of these people you're going to be seeing for the first time with a mask on. We're all going to feel a little awkward. I've been wearing a mask every time I've been out, not outdoors, but as soon as I walk into a building, I put a mask on. It was really awkward for me at first, to be honest with you. It felt really weird putting a mask on. Like, what am I doing? It's so weird. But I got used to it, and now it's nothing. Put a mask on. You look around, everybody else has a mask on too, and so you're going to walk in the church. greeter's going to be there to greet you. They're going to welcome you. They are not going to shake your hand. They're going to stay 6 feet away. Everything's going to be so different than what we walked away from 3.5 months ago. So different. You're going to be greeted by someone social distancing with a mask on. You're going to have a mask on. You're going to get your kids or whatever. You're going to get to your seat. You're going to sit down. Nobody's going to be sitting near you. The next person closest to you is going to be at least 6 feet to either side, or 6 feet behind you, or 6 feet in front of you. None of the chairs will be closer than that. And it's just not going to be the same. So what we have to do is understand that's how it's going to be. And possibly at the 8:30 service, if you're coming to the 8:30 service, maybe even more so, because the 8:30 service might be the least attended service. It might be the smaller attended service. We've got to worship God. I'm challenging our musicians. You play for Jesus, not for who's there or who's not there. You give the glory to God. And I want to thank Jameson and Erica, Brother Jameson, Sister Erica, who during this COVID-19 have been doing this from their home and just worshiping God and doing some beautifully anointed worship services with nobody around, worshiping with them, just giving God the glory. So we need to come to church and do that. We've got to come to church, and we've got to be able to do that. We've got to be able to worship God. We've got to be able to be exuberant in our praise, regardless of who's there or who is not there. And that's something we need to do anyway. So this is a good opportunity to shake ourselves loose from all of the traditional things that we depended on so along the way here. We've learned to depend upon traditional things to motivate us. We want preaching to be a certain way, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, because the preaching is going to be different. But we want the preaching to be a certain way. We want the worship to be a certain way, and the music's got to be a certain way, and the electrifying crowd's got to be a certain way, or we're just not into it. And now it's up to you and me. It's not up to all of us as one. It's up to you and me as individuals to make this thing happen, to give God the glory, that's due his name, to worship him according, the Bible says, to his excellent greatness, not according to how we feel, not according to who's there or who's not there, to worship him according to his excellent greatness. So I'm challenging you, church, to join with me this Sunday morning, whether you're coming at the 8:30 service or the 10:30 service, to get there on time, a few minutes early, so you can be in your chair when the music starts and ready to worship God. Clap your hands with exuberance, lift your hands with praise and joy, make a joyful noise to the Lord. We've got to do it for Jesus, not for who's there or who's not there, but we've got to do it for Jesus, because you don't know what visitor might come straggling through. You don't know what people have been through. You don't know. I'm going to leave our back door and our side door open, so that when the music's playing, it echoes through the neighborhood. You don't know who might walk through the door. And I'm going to tell you something, when they come through the door, it's not going to matter who they see. And it's not going to matter who greets them, as much as what's going to matter is, will they be able to feel Jesus? Will they be able to feel Jesus? And the only way they're going to be able to feel Jesus is if you and I create a habitation of praise for Jesus to come to. That's our job. Create a habitation of praise. He said, speaking of Jesus, if I be lifted up, I will draw men unto me. Our job is to lift him up. Too many times we come to church looking for what he'll do for us. It's time for us to come to church looking for what we can do for him. Can you say amen? Can I hear an amen out there? Type an amen. Somebody type an amen. There's an amen. All right. So we've got to do that for Jesus. Now, second thing that you're going to find different, and this is a good thing. This is a very good thing. All right. You're going to find that my preaching is different. It's been different already on camera, but you're going to find that my sermons are going to be different in the sense that I am going to begin to limit the amount of time I spend preaching. Not just because I got another service starting, but because here's the way it is. Another good thing that's come out of COVID-19 is forcing me as a pastor to go online and to minister online. Now, here's what we have to realize, and we're going to continue to go online, by the way. Even though we are now in our building, our services are still going to be filmed, and they're still going to be broadcast. Now, I'm still up in the air of which service we're going to be putting online. My son, Michael Roush, does all of the video editing. We're looking forward, as we get going here, to have some people assist him to be able to help do some of the video editing with the same quality that he does. We can't just have people that know how to cut and paste. You've got to be able to have the knowledge of that's good or that's not good, or that sound quality is okay, or that you have to get to that point before you'll be able to do the editing. I almost wonder, these are just thoughts going through my head. I don't have an answer yet exactly what we're going to do. But I almost wonder if we're not ultimately going to put both services online, both of them. Ultimately, our ultimate goal, long-term, well, not long-term, midterm goal, is to actually be live streaming. And we're looking into right now getting someone else to do our web hosting for us, because we may be live streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and our own website, mmchurch.com, where our services will be on there. Once we're live streaming, we'll be live streaming both services. So everything's going to be online. I'm saying all that to say this, and I don't mean to go too long tonight, but I'm saying all that to say this. One thing that I have been forced to learn, and I haven't totally learned it yet. I'm realizing the need for it, and I'm adjusting myself and constantly working at being better and better at it. And that is to preach shorter sermons, take less time preaching. No, all the old timers are saying, no, preach it, brother. Preach it. That's the way we old time Pentecostals are. Preach it. We're used to, back in my day, when I first came in, I've been in this a long time. Back in my day, it was nothing to sit and listen to an hour and 15-minute sermon of preachers that just preaching like a house of fire, and we'd shout amen and right to the very end. That's the way it was back then. That's the way it was. That's the way it still is for you, and that's the way it still is for me sometimes. You got to be a good preacher to go over an hour, really good. Sometimes guys just go over an hour. But I'm going to be honest with you. And I want to tell you the mindset that I have and the mindset that we as Maranatha Ministries have to develop. It is not about us. Nothing we do is about us. Everything we do has to have the idea of how will this help us win a soul. Everything we do. If you're on the cleaning committee, and incidentally, folks, listen, Sister Naomi has lost a lot of people on the cleaning committee for one reason or another. I'm not saying people just backed out. Very legitimate reasons people have. Some of them have. So she's working with a skeleton crew right now to do her cleaning. She needs help. If you're able to come once a month, I think it's once a month, and if enough people come, it'd be once every 6 weeks that you just have to come in and take a couple of hours to help get the building clean for before the next week's services. That's just a plug for Naomi. She needs help. If you're on the cleaning committee vacuuming the floor, it is with the understanding, I am doing this for someone who is lost that might walk into this building. And if they walked into this building and saw dirt on the floor, they would have a first impression that is bad. Everything we do is with the lost soul in mind. Everything we do, from our worship to our song selection for the musicians, to my sermons, to our building, to the look of the building, to the appearance of the building inside and outside. And we've still got a lot of work we're doing. We've done a lot of work on the building. You're going to come into a brand new building, folks. Lots of things have changed since you've last been here in the last 3.5 months. There's still a long way to go. The grounds, we got to spruce up the grounds. We're going to be working on that. We've got to spruce up the entryway. We're going to be working on that. We're going to be sprucing up the downstairs, creating a beautiful nursery area and couple of Sunday school classrooms down there. That's yet to happen. That's gonna start right after September. Once the fall hits, we'll be moving downstairs to begin renovations down there and renovations on the outside. Why are we doing this? For you and me? Listen, I'll go worship God, and I'll meet you down at the local junkyard with junk cars laying around. I'll worship God there with you. I'll have church there. I'll have a great time there. But a sinner won't come there. A lost soul won't walk in there. And a lost soul will walk into our church once, and his first impression is going to be, number one, your smile, your welcome, your kindness. And a second impression is going to be the building. Before he ever hears anything, he's going to look around and start making opinions as to whether this is the place for him or not by what he feels when he walks through. That's why we're working and it's just begun, the work we're going to be doing with our greet teams. The whole concept of the greet team has changed. Sister Suzanne Mucci is taking that over from Brother Mike Massey, who just he does not have the time because of his job to be able to, he's still a greeter, but he can't run the whole program. And it just seemed logical that it would fall under hospitality. And so Sister Sue Mucci is taking that over, and she's just got some great ideas, and her and I have been talking. But all of that matters. So what else matters? Preaching. Preaching matters. I'm no longer preaching to the saints or just to the saints. I've got to understand I'm preaching now to the lost souls. Even if there's not a lost soul in our building, we're no longer preaching to who's sitting down inside these four walls. We're not preaching to whoever. Listen, I found out people out in Washington State are listening to my sermons. People who live in this area who used to go to church years ago, but they haven't been in church in years, are listening to my sermons online. We're touching people that we would never, ever have been able to touch before. And here's the deal. You ready for this? I don't know if you're going to like this or not. It really doesn't matter if I like it or not, or if you like it or not. You know why? Because it ain't about us. It's about the lost souls that we need to reach. Guess what? We're living in a generation where most people's attention span is about 20 to 30 minutes. That's about all they can handle. They come in for a sermon, and if my sermons, before COVID, I was preaching. I looked at my podcast. My sermons were sometimes 45, 47 minutes long. That's too long. That's too long. You'll listen to it and you'll shout amen right to the end, and you'll bid me preach on, Pastor. Keep preaching. But not the visitor, not the one that's listening to me online. And so I am better off. I've even noticed, and it's done me a world of good to be able to watch myself preach, because I do the preaching now on Saturday night so we can get the editing done, have the service up on Sunday mornings. And on Sunday morning, my wife and I have church, and I listen to myself preach, and I'm my own worst critic, and I listen to myself. And this, as recent as this past Sunday, I'm listening to myself preach, and I'm listening, and all of a sudden I go, I should have stopped right there. Right there, I should have stopped. And I kept going. And once I kept going, the visitor, I would have lost them. I'm wasting time. I'm saying the things I said were great things, but attention spans are, you know why attention spans are so much shorter? Because of the internet. Everybody is on the internet. Everything is bang, bang, bang. Everything is 30 seconds. Everything is this. In fact, I'm like that, and you probably are too. If I turn on a video on Facebook, the headline catches me. If I turn that on, if they don't grab me within 30 seconds, I'm off onto something else. And even I have found myself, even when I'm liking what I'm hearing, after 6, 7, 8 minutes, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Now, granted, that's different than church, because when you tune into church, you expect to listen to a service. So you expect to sit there for a little while. I understand that. But you're still, the millennials, they might even sit there and watch us online for a 40-minute sermon, but they didn't hear it. They didn't hear it. And what's the most important part of the sermon? The ending. The ending, where there's a call for action. And if they're already zoned out. So listen, my sermon, I'm working at making my sermons a little bit shorter. If I got to spread it out and finish it up next week, I'll finish it up next week. It's all the less work I got to do in between services, doing all the research I do for notes. It's easier for me. That's not why I'm doing it. Everything we do has got to be with the lost in mind. Now listen to me, and I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm already going too long here. I see a lot of amens. I'm just glancing to see if there's any questions. I see a lot of amens. John Marzilli, I love having you on here, John. I love seeing your name pop up. My good friend John Marzilli, who sold his restaurant, closed down his restaurant, which none of us are happy about. But at any rate, I understand. He's old. He's old now and had to retire. You notice I'm still working. He couldn't do it anymore. So he closed his restaurant down. But at any rate, we love you, John. Love having you join in. Now I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I'm going too long here tonight. I don't even know what point I was trying to make. At any rate, let's wrap it up, shall we? So if I have to preach, if I have to continue on next week, I'm going to continue on next week. But somebody write in here what I was just talking about. You don't remember either, do you? See, it doesn't matter. We don't remember anyway. But at any rate, I saw myself this past week, realized I was going a little too long, and I'm trying to improve and make it better so that we can reach everybody. Everybody. We want to reach everybody. We want to reach souls. We want to bring souls in. And believe me, I know what I was talking about, and I'll say it real quick. Read Jesus' sermons. Read them. How many of you know about the sermon about the sower who went forth to sow seed? Some fell on stony ground, some fell on good grounds, thorny ground, and the hard packer. How many know about that? That was one of Jesus' sermons. How long do you think it took him to say that sermon? I read that sermon, I don't know what, 3 minutes? 3 minutes? Jesus spoke that sermon, and that was the end of his sermon. He made that statement and he was done. Later on, his apostles asked him to explain it. So he explained it to them behind the scenes. But the sermon that Jesus preached was what, 5 minutes? 6 minutes? You see, it's not the length of time we spend preaching. Sometimes we think that it's got to be long. It's got to be dragged out. Otherwise, we don't feel like we've done anything. Jesus got a lot done in very little time. He said a great deal in a very short period of time. And I'm working at gearing my sermons towards that goal so that I can give sermons that the millennials can listen to, the older group can listen to, we can all glean something from. And if you say so much that you can't get it in your head, you go home and nothing really sticks. But if you can make one point really good, that can be life transforming. So those are the changes you're going to see. Fewer people, the energy won't be there. You got to create that energy. My sermons, I'm going to work at getting them shorter and shorter. I'm not talking about 5 minutes, but I'm gonna get them down. I'm asking God to help me be aware when I've reached that point. And I think I got one more thing to say. I don't have to say that. Yeah, I got one more thing I want to say, but I don't have to say it today. I might be able to say it more effectively if I hold it off till next week. So those are my plans. Those are my goals. But one of the great things, and now I'm going to be done, I promise you, but one of the greatest things that came out of COVID-19 is the understanding of this kind of interaction, online interaction. Because I wanted to do discipleship seminars. I wanted to do Bible studies. I wanted to do financial seminars. I was talking to one of the men in my life group last night, and we were talking about addiction seminars. When could we have ever done this? I always thought to myself, when do I do a seminar? Do I try to do it on Wednesday night? Who's going to come out? Everybody's got kids. You can't get babysitters. You've worked all day. Now you got to try to get to church by 7 o'clock for a seminar, and you're exhausted when you get there. How are you going to do it? Guess how we can do all kinds of things now? Zoom meetings. Have you signed up for a Zoom meeting? I can do online seminars that you can be at right in the comfort of your living room. Put online the information you're going to need to download and print out. All kinds of doors are opening up for us, folks, to teach, to train, to have the revival we've always prayed for. COVID-19 has not done us any hurt. It's done us a world of good. All things work together for the good to those who love God and are the called according to his purpose. And I believe Maranatha Ministries is called according to his purpose. Hopefully I'll see you Sunday. I'm looking so forward to it. Let me just take a quick glance, see if anybody's got any questions for me. And they don't. Danny, if you didn't get on early enough, I did explain your comment last week and how I mistook it. Danny would never insult me like that and tell me when the image looks bad. He might call me up later and tell me, because he's into electronics and all this, he might tell me how to do it better, but he would never. online insult me. All right, I don't see any questions. I see a lot of amens, and thank God for all of you folks that are joined in. And I hope I see you on Sunday. Let's come and let's focus on Jesus and have ourselves a time in church this Sunday, 8:30. Then again at 10:30. It's going to be a wonderful day. One bit of bad news: my daughter Shoshana, my son-in-law Michael, my new grandson Ritz will not be in church this Sunday. And I'm sorry. I know everybody wanted to see the baby, but Sister Shoshana's got to go in for some surgery on Tuesday, I believe it is. And before she can go in for surgery, she has to go in for COVID testing. And they scheduled her COVID testing for Thursday. And once she takes her COVID testing, she's got to be quarantined until her surgery, which is Tuesday. So from Thursday to Tuesday, she can't leave the house, can't have anybody come. My wife and I can't even stop in to visit her. So we're going to miss them this first Sunday back. They feel awful that they're going to miss the first Sunday back. The following week, you'll be able to see Ritz, my new grandson. God bless you all. I love every one of you. I hope you'll come to church. I hope you'll start inviting people to come to church with you. Don't come alone. Invite people to come on out. It's going to be an exciting time. It's going to be a great time. And we're going to have, and most importantly, the Spirit of the Lord is going to be in that sanctuary, because we are going to create a habitation for Him to take residence in. God bless you all. I'll see you on Sunday.